What is the goal you're going for?
Well, we're heading towards the conventional space. We're making moves to go that route, but there's a lot of compliance, regulation, and licensing that is required. So um, we have a pretty lofty goal to be set up by the end of first quarter. So I'm trying to step on the gas with all the hoops to jump through, and it's actually perfect timing because I think the lending space is still new to us, right? We come from the investor side where we buy, fix, sell, buy, build, sell, and the finance space is a whole new world. We've been learning for the last couple of years, and that's why I think our guest that we have on today, we've been kind of waiting for him to come on because I'll introduce Brian shortly. But he's been a huge friend and asset for us in helping us fast track the learning side on the lending side. So definitely huge. And we've been working with his company for years and just never, I didn't get to meet him till we linked up at these lending conferences. So I can't wait to introduce him to everybody. And I guess before we get started though, why don't we just hop right into it? Well, I think there's still people kind of logging in, but does anybody have any needs, leads, or good deeds? Anybody have anything under contract that's looking to close? Anything that's any good deeds done? I know Greg had a good deed last week. I don't know if Greg's on today.
I have a Kailua almost by North Kalaheo. It's an off-market property, duplex, legal. He wants, I think it's like 1.5, and then the permits are expired, but there was permits and pillars pre-built to build an ADU, a carport. So they one side rents for $31.50, the other side rents for $29. So the numbers don't make sense right now, but fixed up and renovated, I mean, it's something I really want to take down. I just don't have the ability right now. And I'd rather go to someone I know. That's going to be an insane location. It's like 6 houses from the beach, right by the beach access as well. And tenants can stay somewhat fixer-upper. I mean, totally livable. I have a respectable friend who lives in there, but it needs TLC.
So you're looking for a buyer?
Yeah, unless if somebody wants to help me take it down.
Okay, so property in Kailua. Tristan's asking, are they open to seller financing?
No, the current guy who lives in there, he wanted to do that with him and they said no. So just straight sale, off market, pretty much almost at value, but you're not competing in this market right now. So that's almost a deal in itself for a legal duplex in that area. And resale, I mean, if you'll go a little bit less, then it could work, especially if you can, like Roderick just said, if they're open to move in. I think some of the tenants are month to month, especially on the other side. So you could even live in one half, finish building the carport ADU, then you have 3 sources of income. It'd be a good property to hold at that point, and it would make it more saleable for sure. So Roderick, I'll get back to you and get those logistics. Is it towards like Kahi Shopping Center or Lani Kai? It's Coconut, no, neither, in between. So like, sweetheart, where is by the police station when you go take a left down by your grandma's house? Like right in the middle, what would you call that?
Police station. Oh, that's like main Kailua Road, I think.
Yeah, but if you take a left and it's not North Kalaheo, but not Kainalu. It's not Kainalu, but it's in the center of all of that. Like
Molyneux Street? I don't know. We can find it and then put it in the Facebook group.
I just drive there just knowing where it is. I don't even know the address. But I'll get all the information. Maybe I'll put in the, if you guys want to send me your email, I have Roderick's, but the others, I'll get the details.
Oh yeah, Gio says Oniava Street. That might be it. That might be the one you're talking about.
No, it's not Oniava.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, we'll figure it out.
Oh
Tristan
yeah,
dropped her
it's a bit
email.
further from the water. It's like much closer.
Okay. Check the chat. Tristan and Chris is dropping their email for you. Thanks, guys. Anybody else have anything?
Yeah, I got something, Corey, real quick.
All right. What's up, Kawhi?
How's it going, guys? So I just have a request. If anyone knows any good Airbnb management, somebody that can handle all the turnover and that side of it. If anyone has any recommendations.
Just had a friend move to the island who does that.
You do?
Yeah, he
Awesome.
just moved here. I'll get you guys connected.
Awesome. Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it.
Perfect. Is that for here on island, Oahu?
Yeah, on island.
Gotcha. All right. Anybody else have anything?
I got one. Does anyone have an appraiser that may have some time to do a quick appraisal on vacant land from the CPR? My assessed value, I don't want to say it went up tenfold, but it's pretty excessive. And I have a lot of building or infrastructure to put in before it's buildable. So I'm trying to appeal it, but I need ideally an appraiser. And they're all booked up right now.
We might be able to. Yeah, that's the problem. Appraisers they're super slammed right now, and even ours who they know we're on tight timelines. So usually when they see orders come in for us and our clients, they kind of make special exceptions and jump to the top. So we might, but even she's getting backed up. So when do you need this, Chris?
Appeals due by I just got off the phone. Appeals due by the 15th, but I got a couple months before I get a hearing in front of the judge. So I guess as long as I get someone who could, get in the pipeline,
Then okay.
I just have to make my educated guess on the appeal, and then hopefully the numbers match. I get to a hearing in front of the judge.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Ashley just dropped one of the appraisers in there. That's Ray Benedictus. I think we've worked with him. Dante's asking do you know if they'll take a BPO?
What's a BPO?
Broker price opinion.
Broker price opinion.
They will, but they recommend a independent.
Broker.
They said someone on island is okay, but a independent appraiser is best. And considering that it's undeveloped and it's a 70-foot drop, I need someone who would understand the construction aspect. And I'm trying to get bids on the infrastructure. So, tying those two pieces together. Gotcha.
Okay. It's for, you're building residential, right? Out there.
R5, yeah.
R5, okay. We can check with Leslie. Sheena, if you don't mind, can you just take note for me to contact Leslie Noel for Chris?
No problem.
I put her number in there too.
Thanks, boss.
Thank you. We'll get back to you, Chris, on that. See if we can help you out. Anybody else? Let's see. Everybody needs something. Oh man, everybody's shy this week.
If any, just so you guys know, long-term, we're doing long-term rentals, 30-year fixed. So if anyone has a project, no seasoning requirement, no experience requirement, nothing. Rates are starting at 4.75. And the rate is pretty much based upon credit. So the higher your credit, the better we can get on your rate. Not a whole bunch we can do to drive the rate down without a good credit score, but
Didn't Ashley just have a 3-unit possibility that would make that work at 4 5/8?
Exactly.
boom.
Exactly.
See, that's why we keep Brian around. This guy's genius. Just wait till you hear. He catches all the little details.
Yeah.
Is that in any state?
Any state.
Not all.
Oh,
50
except for,
states.
yeah,
We're not doing North Dakota, South Dakota, I think
Nevada.
Alaska.
Is it Nevada?
Nevada, Tennessee. How about Tennessee?
Potentially, yeah, we can look at it.
What about Nevada though? I don't.
Nevada, we'll see. We just
Okay.
we have to use a broker record. It just might, the points in Nevada might just be a little bit higher, just due to we'll have to bring in somebody else to help close the deal.
Elijah's asking about
You folks-
Florida. Too.
Florida, yes,
You folks doing Georgia?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. Let's rock and roll, guys. Let's rock and roll. I'm gonna be honest. We would prefer about 200,000 plus loan amount, just because we don't want to have to charge too high to hit our numbers, because we want it to be cost effective and make sense for you guys, so you make your money. You know, people over profits all the time. So that's why we prefer the deal size at least be around 200,000.
And what is the loan to value?
We go up
That's
to
all I
70.
wanted.
It depends on credit, but we can get up to 80.
Okay.
Hey Dante, real quick. Maybe if Leslie or any appraisers can't help Chris out, would you be able to help him with a BPO?
I can ask, and I'll see. I'll check on. I don't do BPOs, that's why. But I can ask my my ex-wife about the appraisal.
Okay. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. Okay.
Thanks, man.
Right on, guys. Okay, well, let's jump into it. Today, we have Brian Mingham on the line with us, and Brian is he's like a mentor for us and a friend. And you know, we look like he doesn't know this, but he's like a mentor to. He's an unofficial mentor. So there you go, Brian. He's been so helpful for us. In fact, like he has the same spirit that we do here, where he's the ultimate connector, and he knows, he builds relationships just like we do. And we've I want to tell this story that early on when we first started, I was in line to, like, I'm always a last minute guy getting my taxes in. So I was at the post office trying to like overnight something, and I was in line. The line was super long. I made it halfway, and then Alex calls me. He's like, "Hey man, we got a call right now, like very important." I was like, "Well, how important?" Because I've just stood in line for like half an hour and I need to get this thing in. And he was saying like, "Oh, it's important." And so I stepped out of line, took the call, and it was a big call. In fact, it was really big, where by the end of the call, I realized like, man, we weren't ready for that call. Maybe like a few years later, then we'd be ready. And the guy was super nice and gracious, but he needed high volume, and we weren't there yet by any means. And we still aren't, but we'll get there one day. And I remember asking Alex after, I was like, how did you get on the phone with this guy? Because like, you don't really get calls like that, just by chance or cold calling somebody, So, and he said that Brian, sent him our way. And I just remember that because I was thinking, wow, just to get that, to be able to have a discussion, at that level with that caliber of, company and person, was something that stuck with me to this day. And so I want to thank Brian for always thinking of us, and he wants to see us succeed. He's by our side, and we've worked with his company for years, and it's just I got to meet him till a few years ago at the Pitbull conference and stuff. But we really want to bring him on because, for one, he's a dear friend. He has the same intentions and culture that we try to cultivate here, with our group. Brian is the founder and CEO of CFSI Loan Management. So some of you guys may already be working with his company. They do fund control and construction management. So we wanted to bring him on. And for one, I wanted to ask him questions about his story because they have over 8 billion in management right now, under management, which means that he's operating a massive company. And there's a lot of knowledge even just there as a business owner and leader of a company of that size, like what the responsibilities are with all his employees and his team. So I think there's a lot of learning lessons we can all learn from. And then especially since a lot of us are in construction, we deal with fund control, especially if you're leveraging hard money and different banks. So Brian, welcome to our little coffee talk here. This is like kind of our ohana, our family. And first I wanted to just ask if you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your story, how you ended up starting this company and why. And then we can go on from there.
Perfect. Well, thanks for the invite, all the kind words. Great to see everybody's smiling faces out there. It's coffee talk in Hawaii, and it's almost cocktail time here in Denver, Colorado. So I had to prepare for this morning, so I didn't get to put my skis on. But you guys are in shorts and your rubber slippers. So
there you go.
So I hope you guys are enjoying yourselves. So thanks again to Corey, Alex for setting this up. So a little bit about me. I've been a lifetime mortgage guy, retail, wholesale, correspondent lending, bulk servicing acquisitions, all in the traditional mortgage space. Countrywide for a number of years, and wholesale, we did a ton of business in Hawaii with their original construction lending program, which if any of you guys are mortgage brokers were familiar with. In 2009, we hit a speed bump somewhere. Something happened with the economy. I was buying bulk servicing rights, $8 or $9, $10 billion a month from all the large banks at Chase. They closed that down. I was always a traveling sales guy all over the country, lived on planes, had a young kid, never saw him, decided to take some time off. 3 weeks into taking some time off, my wife wanted to go to lunch every day and hang out with me, and I'd go to the gym and I'd go golfing, and 3 hours into my day, I had nothing else to do. So I was watching TV and I saw this guy cleaning out toilets for bank-owned properties. I'm like, what is that? And guy's like, I'm a mortgage broker and it's the only job I can find. And I thought, I know all the C-level executives at large banks and large mortgage companies that are having these problems. I'm going to open a property preservation company. So I opened a property preservation company in 2009. Started making some phone calls. 2.5, 3 months into it, I became a national property preservation company because one of my customers said, can you do this for me all over the country? And I'm just a ditch digger. So I'm like, yep, I can do it. So I didn't know what that meant, but we figured out how to do it. So I had a property preservation company, an inspection company, a construction company, an asset management company, all revolving around the default services business. Halfway in between there, I started this company, CFSI, as my hedge against the default business going away. right? So when the defaults got better, construction would improve. Then I could go back and play with all of my friends in the mortgage business because it was prime type of business. So it was just kind of crossing paths. So we shut down the property preservation business 2.5 years ago as things got slow. This business was continuing to grow. So CFSI, as Corey mentioned, we manage a little over $8 billion in construction loans all over the country. Residential, commercial, multifamily, SBA, fix and flip, bridge, you name it, we're doing all of it for all asset classes. Small $50,000 fix and flip, lipstick on the pig. And our largest project is a $500 million project in New York City for the New York City Philharmonic. So we have a wide range of projects that we do. Large commercial banks and small, fix and flip lenders. So that's kind of how I started, right? It was just reaching in and finding the opportunity that others didn't want. I don't care where the revenue comes from. Somebody asked me to do something, I try to find a way to make that happen for people. And if I can make money doing it, then I do it. I don't care if it's a valuation, if it's a contractor profile. Yes is the answer for me. It's incremental revenue. So that's what, and so CFSI manages risk primarily for banks and consumers. So we help them, and some of you probably, with contractor profiles and project feasibilities on the origination side, making sure that you know that your contractor is licensed, insured, capable of building whatever it is that somebody's asking them to build is critical. And project feasibility, right? Chris talked about an R5 on a 70% slope, right? That's Southern California in the hills of, in the hills of not Malibu, but just, Bel Air, you name it, right? We've had deals that come in the door and somebody says, we're going to build a 10,000 square foot house for, $3 million. No, you're not. I mean, the caissons alone are $2 million. I mean, you're going 40 feet down, you can't do it, right? Chris gets his contractor in there and says, oh yeah, we'll just put up some 4x4s and it'll be fine sitting on the edge of the cliff. No problem, right? People that don't know. And they say, oh, it's a good bid. And then they get started and the contractor leaves with the money. And so it's important that consumers, know what they're getting, right? Who is it? Gene and somebody, I can't see the other name on there, but I see those two sitting together. I'm just going to assume husband and wife. I'm apologize if you're not, right? But, you decide to sit there and get your kitchen redone and you get 3 bids, you take the low bid and the low bid is a bad bid. And then, getting punched in the face because the kitchen's torn out, the money's already spent, there's not enough to finish it. It ruins your marriage for a consumer's perspective. And banks don't want to lend on it, right? Banks fund the money to do it. Then they get a half-built construction project. And then there's not enough money. Corey doesn't want to kick in any more money. It's a high LTV, fix and flip, 100% financed. The guy doesn't have it, he walks, right? The bank doesn't want a half-built construction project. So they hire us to help evaluate that. They're good at income, assets, debt ratios, looking at an appraisal, but they're not good at costing a project. Is it right for that? So we help lenders and consumers on the front end make good business decisions, right? You can't, I won't swear on this, but you can't un-F yourself once you do the deal. So, and then on the back end, we do the funds control like Corey talked about, right? Making sure that when somebody asks for a draw, the work's in place, right? When Chris is doing his project and he's putting up his retaining walls and doing all this stuff, is it done? Are the permits signed off? Did they pull permits? All the things that lenders want to know, and then just do a quality inspection. So we do that all over the country, and it's really a risk protection. And I tell people in your space all the time, you probably, don't need us on the lipstick on the pig, paint, carpet, granite. You can cost those pretty effectively yourself. You may need an inspection because you want a third party disinterested person, kind of like, especially when you're doing with institutional stuff, right? Corey and Alex have to deal farther up the food chain, as some of you may. As you're selling to other people and those other people sell to other people, or they sell to Wall Street or directly, they want to know it. These are all going into securitizations today. Those securitizations, people make specific reps about what it is. And then the farther down you go on the food chain to get boots on the ground, as you guys are doing the actual work, lenders want to know what it is. So that's where a company like ours and others like us in the industry help support that as an independent third party. And it helps you guys feel good that your contractor did it right. And it helps the banks figure out that, yes, they can trust that, Chris doesn't call Dante and Dante doesn't say, yeah, I'll just give you a BPO. What number do you need? Kind of like the good old days.
The good old days.
Chris is
ninja
trying to make
loans.
sure his tax doesn't go from 10,000 a year to 100,000. Dante is like, oh, that's really what it is. So again, there's no more writing on the windows, copying people's signatures, right? The days of, mortgage lending, pre, late 90s is gone. So compliance is the key. So anyway, that was kind of a long-winded blurb, Corey, on who I am and what.
No, that was perfect. And that's one thing I just found out recently is like it's more than just the construction management, right? You guys help with like feasibility on the front end, especially for these banks, right, that are taking back these properties or these projects. But I guess, what would you say makes up the bulk of your business? Is it the bank owned, the foreclosures?
No, we do very little of that. We're prepared for it. There was a large number of, I don't know how to say it politely. There are a whole lot of people that were doing loans that didn't know what they were doing, originating, selling them to people. People weren't validating and using services like ours. And so some of those guys at the top of the house, because we have an audit piece of our business as well. So we audit people for warehouse lenders and things like that. There are people that are holding billions of dollars of bad fix and flip loans that they can't do anything with because they had a bad feasibility. A big part of the business was, and I don't want to make it sound like it's a bad thing and it's a problem that you guys are doing, because it's not, right? You buy a house on the steps, you're making an assumption if it needs X, Y, and Z. And so you get a loan and you say it's going to cost me, $50,000, $100,000. I mean, I think it was Ashley that was talking about that ADU and this, and if you put in 300,000, well, maybe, right? Until you pull off something out of the bathrooms and you put a little bit of stuff on it and there's termites and rot, and it's not 300,000, it's 500,000, and you already got a loan from that investor. And so there's a lot of those guys that got those loans pre-March of 2020 when we had another event. Liquidity dried up. I can tell you, Corey was calling me on March 3rd, March 5th, March 15th, right? Liquidity dried up. And once that happened, right, the dancing stopped and the seats got full pretty quick. And there are a lot of people that had half-built construction projects that couldn't refinance to another fix and flip lender. It's very difficult now for you to refinance your fix and flip if you come up short with another fix and flip lender, because they don't want to inherit somebody else's problem. So that happens. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that people couldn't refinance that are half built, that don't have the money to complete them. Lenders are not foreclosing on most fix and flips because they are residential and they're owned, even though they're owned by an LLC. There's still some squishiness around the whole LLC and foreclosure. So people are being advised not to foreclose on that. So you're going to see, as things start to lighten up in all these different states, you'll start to see some more foreclosure. So we are prepared for the foreclosure REO work that comes in. And that would include, right, securing the property, making sure it's, you know, at least secure, and then doing what we call a cost to complete. What's it going to take to complete the project to get it back to a livable or saleable standard, and give you that information. And that's called the cost to complete report. It's kind of similar to a project feasibility. Feasibilities you do on the front end, cost to complete on the back end. That way the lender or the owner has an idea of what, and everything we do from an objective third party non-arm's length transaction. So it sounds like Chris is in development, right? So he could be a borrower and a contractor in the same vein. Some people are just borrowers. So Chris may be able to build that property cheaper than I can, because I would have to go out and hire a contractor. He would put his profit and overhead in my bid. Chris probably doesn't put profit and overhead in his bid that he's doing because he's building it for himself and he's going to earn it on the back end. So we run into that all the time too, because from a bank's perspective, if, you know, Chris is, you know, out spearfishing and gets chewed in half by some big fish, right? He's not going to be able to finish that project, and the bank's going to have a project that's 20% or 30% underfunded, which creates a different problem. So our objective is always, what is a non-arm's length transaction going to give you and show you? And again, those are just simple risks for construction that everybody bumps into. And you guys have all had it. I mean, I know you have. If you're in construction and rehab, you've got over budget, you know. I guarantee lumber's gone up in Hawaii just as much as it has in everywhere else in the country. So, you know, it's challenging. It's project feasibility is more of the art of what you guys do, and fund control is just the science. It's math. It's following the numbers and making sure people are doing it. So,
I love that. I like that analogy, and I always learn something, at least one or two nuggets from you, yeah, Brian, whenever we talk. And I think I've told this story before on this call, so a lot of people know. But when COVID happened, it was a little crazy. Like during especially on the finance side, things were changing daily. Big companies were closing their doors left and right, and I was getting concerned because I have projects, ground up construction out here, and I had debt to another hard money company, and I was watching. They got bought out. This is 5 Arch. They got bought out by Redwood, I think, right? And ever since the acquisition, it was a nightmare dealing with them. We had good people and relationships within the company, but they had no control over what was going on. And I just remember I was watching their stock just go to zero almost, you know, and I was getting concerned because my draws were taking a long time. And so I called Brian, you know, and get his advice and what's going on, and gave me the insights, you know, and that's why I told you yesterday, Brian, like, you're like a voice of comfort, you know, to us, because it's a new space for us, but also, you know, you're a big influence in the, I guess, in the industry, because construction is a huge chunk of what, you know, we all do. And sometimes it's the biggest headaches, right? I can probably guess that majority of the people on here have had issues with contractors or projects and the management of it, right? Because it's one thing to buy at the right price, but if you can't execute properly, then it'll turn a good deal into a bad deal very quickly. So the service that you guys provide is very necessary. And I guess one question I want to ask about you is what changes have you seen in our space and in the construction side since COVID? Is there anything that sticks out?
Well, a lot happened, right? So when we talk about COVID happening, and the example you had of 5 Arch, right? We have to think about where the money comes from, right? And those 5 guys, whether it be Blackstone, BlackRock, any of the institutional, Nomura, Credit Suisse, any of the guys at the top of the house have massive billions and tens of hundreds of billions of dollars of money to lend out. And they lend it out in the commercial space. And commercial includes credit cards and airplanes and autos and everything else. So when they get a hiccup, right, they stop all their lines and they pull all those lines back to all of those business units and say, get out of that space. That's what happened to you, right? When somebody gets their warehouse lines pulled, the commitments that they have, right? We had so many clients that closed loans on their lines, waiting for another institutional buyer to buy it that never bought, and they're stuck with $1 million of loans on their line of credit that you're getting asked to get those off because a line of credit, warehouse line, is only supposed to be a short period of time. But you closed a loan for one of these guys that now won't buy it because they don't have the money to buy it because theirs got pulled and theirs got pulled. So, right, that put the market on its ear. Then they found out, when the tide goes out, you find out who doesn't have shorts on, right? The tide went out, and there were a lot of guys that didn't have the right policies and procedures in place. And so we were getting pounded with those type of requests when COVID happened. We found, that, people then start slow paying, right? As Corey experienced, it takes a long time to get a draw out the door because I don't have the money to send it because my line got pulled. Same thing happened with, inspectors, right? So all the inspectors that go out and look at your projects, all their clients, appraisers, everybody started getting slow paid because nobody had money. We went the other direction, right? So we paid all of our vendors up to the day that they were done. We sent everybody masks, right? Trying to keep people, healthy and engaged. A lot of the permitting part stopped, but existing projects were able to continue to be completed, which thankfully, happened. So, we saw a change in the dynamic of the mental process. Our office is right outside of Denver in Greenwood Village in the tech center. We have 45 employees. All of them have been home since probably October. We had them out, we brought them back, and then they've been out since October, right? Trying to manage that many people remotely, keeping them energized, right? Trying to tell them don't go out and party with your friends and get COVID and be out for 2 weeks, trying to support all of that. But we saw that the market change for institutional people. They want more of our services because they want to know that you're doing a good deal up front. You're slowing down, you're looking at it. So we've seen a dramatic increase in the project feasibility work that we do for people, as well as the funds control. That's where funds control collects invoices and lien releases and tracks the money. A lot of times people will take a line item amount and move a line item to a different spot. And we see that people say, well, it's okay. The budget still balances. It's still $100,000. He just moved 10,000 out of flooring and moved it into something else. Well, what was that 10,000 in flooring? Well, it went from travertine to sheet vinyl. okay, you can still sell it with sheet vinyl, but your ARV now is different, Mr. Lender. And so some people don't recognize the impacts of that, which impacts the lender who, really wants me. If I'm going to throw Chris under the bus, he's the only guy, does something, right? Chris doesn't care. He just moved it from, from travertine to, contractor profit and overhead. He just found a way to front load his budget and says, I need, 40% of the money up front before I start. And then he turns off his cell phone, right? So those are all the things that we do to help lenders prevent getting in a bad spot or overfunded, because people lose interest. If I've got all my money out of the deal already, I'm not too excited about finishing it or getting done early.
Right.
So all of these things feed into risk management, and that's really what we are. We're a risk management company. And when things are good, the way they have been, like anything, right? When things are going good and everybody's printing money, people don't like us and don't want to use us. And then when the market turns around, they can't believe that they haven't been using us and don't know why they weren't using us, because we're an impediment, right? Contractors complain that, oh, I have to wait for 2 days for my money. Just send it to me. I promise it's done. Trust but validate is our term.
Yeah. Well, and with that, Brian, are you preparing for anything? Because right now, like a lot of the inventory is not being circulated, right? From a lot of the foreclosure inventory. I'm sure that when that inventory hits the market, you're going to be a busy guy, or like your company is going to just be right. So are you doing anything to prepare for that? Because we've had discussions here, especially during COVID, and Brian is and his company is a part of the NPLA as well. And so we had weekly calls, and those helped us a lot. And we were relaying as much as we could to, everybody here, so we can kind of stay ahead, a little bit ahead of what we feel is gonna happen. I mean, nobody really knows when or if, but if we can at least prepare ourselves, right? So are you doing anything to prepare on your side for a potential influx of business for you?
Yeah, so we've got, so our service offering for lenders, which is going to be the primary, right? The big aggregators are really going to be the guys that are going to want to either sell in a bulk. We've got two approaches. So we've got a risk management approach that will tell a lender, we can help you lessen your loss severity by allowing us to go in and do a cost to complete, find you a new contractor, finish the project, and allow you to sell the property, right? Or we will help you dispose of the property. We'll secure the property. We'll get a tape together, and you can get it out to other investors in the network and just sell it as is. The problem is the haircut on a half-built fix and flip, right? You have a $750,000 house there, and you're doing a fix and flip, and you tear it apart, and then you go belly up. The house isn't worth 750 grand. I mean, there's no windows, there's no doors, there's no drywall. The person that's buying it is going to hit you for a severe haircut, right? So, a scratch and dent loan on the agency conventional side where you miss a FICO, might be 95. A half-built construction project might be 30 cents on the dollar, and right? Nobody wants to take that haircut, but they're gonna, right? Or they have to spend the money to redo it. Then when you spend the money to redo it, there's some legalities that involve you becoming a builder, and then you have builder reps and warrants. And if you're a lender and now you're a builder and now you've got a 10-year warranty issue, those are tail pieces that people don't necessarily want. So, it's a dynamic that's going to change across the US here pretty quick. And there's a lot of people raising a lot of money preparing for it.
Right. That's what I figured.
Yeah, it's coming. But again, the foreclosure crisis that's coming due to COVID and all the people that are out of jobs and all our restaurateurs and hospitality workers and everything else. It's, you know, it's just a damn shame. But values have risen so much, we have to be able to, and I forget her name that has that off-market deal. But right, those are the deals people should be chasing. You know, everybody should be chasing the guy that's in foreclosure, sell the house, rent back from him, let them rent back, give them their equity and not go through a foreclosure, and then end up with either a very nice rental pool, or just be able to have your next fix and flip down the road. Because though that's the opportunity, I think, for late 2021 is getting those off-market foreclosure deals, coaching consumers about, don't let this go back to the bank. You're giving up your equity. Sell the house, rent back, get 50 grand in your pocket. I mean, don't be silly. Don't let the bank take advantage of that. We don't need another big foreclosure crisis. So, so we're prepared for that and helping our clients either dispose of the assets or get them over the finish line so their loss severity isn't as great. Because we deal with contractors all over the country, we can feed people work because we've done business with them and we've done their background checks, and we can help facilitate finding a good contractor in the market because we have tens of thousands of them in our database.
Yeah, so I didn't know that that's is that an actual service that you guys provide, or is that just kind of a?
It is.
It is. Wow, that's huge. So everybody on the call, because like we have a lot of investors here that are looking for good contractors, you know, and you're like the perfect guy, right? Because you see all the data. I mean,
well, that's it.
Yeah,
we've got all the backgrounds of everybody that we validate all over the country.
All over the country too. That's huge, because I know that's probably the most common question I have if there's any contractors that, you know, I recommend and stuff, you know, and it's hard to recommend a good general contractor because they might be good for you, you know, when I guess like under certain circumstances, because we've dealt with like amazing general contractors, and so I mean they'll be good for a couple of years and then maybe they get a heavy you know, they start taking in a lot of jobs and then all of a sudden things start to slow down. The logistics aren't being managed properly. Maybe their books aren't being managed properly. You know, like we've had contractors move money from our projects to God knows where, you know, and these are guys that I've trusted before. They just made bad decisions and, you know, ended up costing us money, right? So we're always, I know there's a lot of people looking for great contractors, and I don't have the data, right? So, yeah, and you guys are providing kind of like, that's part of what you guys provide too. And I want to talk about the service you guys provide isn't just for like large institutions either, right? Let's say you're a private lender, and you're giving money, maybe $400,000 to an investor to go flip a house, right? But that's a lot of money that you're putting out there, and so they can come to you directly, like a private lender, an individual, and maybe contractor services for the fund control, feasibility,
all of it.
Okay.
All of it. Yeah. And, you know, I see another familiar face on there, Mr. Potter.
I see Toby.
So he's another client in Texas. But that's the key is you guys know your market better than anyone, right? You live on island, you know your guys, you know what it costs. You know, you start talking about going to Tennessee or Oklahoma, right? It's out of your wheelhouse. You're not comfortable. That's really where, and again, we help people go national, right? Mr. Potter's, you know, a good example, right? You can do all your stuff, in Texas, but when you really want to figure out if you're dealing Massachusetts and New York and Florida and all these other marketplaces, create challenges for the different rules you need to do, the different invoices and lien releases. We see it all the time, and we see it when we get into the litigation piece for our clients. You know, you use your Hawaii lien release and you just say, all right, sign this, and you send it to California. Well, it's not legal in California. It's nice that you got a form signed, makes you feel good, but it's not legal. Judge is going to say, great, thanks, wrong form. See you later, you're out. That's where the complexities of the fund control and management of that come into play. And like you said, people not showing invoices, not knowing, right? We have it in New York. It's snowing in New York City, and they say, okay, the roof's done. We're not getting on a roof that has snow on it. I can't tell you that there's new shingles on that. I look at the invoice and I look at the lien release from the roofing company that says, here's the 10 squares I put on. Great. You put on a new roof, right? Or I look at it and it says 2 squares. And then I look at the budget and it says $25,000, and you look at the thing that says 2 squares. Oh, I just patched it. I'm not letting you get away with that, right? I'm going to recommend to the lender that, you know, you don't pay the guy the 25 grand for 2 squares because he patched it. He told you he's going to put on a new one. So those are all the things that we do to help support lenders and people across the United States.
Brian, you want to touch real quick on just an individual, you know, someone that's just I know you kind of touched on it, but just how a consumer could use your services to help them ensure that their rental property gets fixed right, or just their personal residence, just whatever scenario they may be going through.
Yeah, so the big things we do for consumer direct are contractor approval and project feasibility. Consumers, I'll lump myself in that thing, right? You go and call 3 guys, 2 show up. One guy's 40,000, one guy's 20,000. One guy says rehab kitchen, the other guy has a detailed scope of work. And you say, well, I'm going to save 20 grand. It's not necessarily the right thing. You get an IKEA kitchen and you know, plastic cabinet. Again, I picked on somebody earlier, but you have certain expectations. If it's not specific, it's difficult to get it done. That's our big problem is we see rolled up budgets. When we go out to inspect the property, if you say rehab kitchen, 50,000, and I go out and there's cabinets and a sink and a stove and a whatever, I say, okay, it's done. It's 100%. Well, that was the original stuff that was in there. I don't know that because I wasn't out there before. It didn't say, you know, new maple cabinets and slab granite and stainless steel appliances. And that's where details get in from a lender's perspective, even the appraisal, right? I think it's Dante, right? I was talking about his ex-wife was an appraiser, right? If it's not specific, nobody can put a value on new kitchen. So for a consumer, that's where we help. We help make sure that the contractor they hire, right, is, you know, Brian's handyman service wins the bid for the World Trade Center. I don't know anything about steel. I don't know a $5 billion building, but I was the low bid, so they hit it. So we make sure that people are competent, licensed, insured, aren't on a terror watch list. And then the project feasibility is, here's what you're getting, here's what it should cost. We really don't do much on the fund control and the inspections for the consumers because they're living there, right? Corey's standing over in his new kitchen. He picked the granite. He knows it's done. He's releasing the funds. So we don't do much with consumers on the back end because they're there controlling it, with the exception of is if they have a construction loan. A lot of people are just taking cash out right now and doing it. So we're really only doing the front end because they manage the back end. But it's still important, right? I mean, there are horror stories of people not collecting invoices and lien releases and you paying the guy money and they still file a lien. I can file a lien on any one of your properties today without anybody saying a word. And then you got to fight me to get it taken off. It's unfortunate that that's what can happen, but it can happen. Especially if you're trying to sell it, then you got to cloud on title and you got to bond out of it and you got to take me to court and figure it out. So it's important to do it right. There's some bad people out there.
Yeah. And I think that's what you guys, now that I'm thinking about it, because I didn't think about how things may change for you in your favor, possibly, right? Because you guys might have a lot of business coming your way if there is a fallout from all of what's going on. Maybe like, what do you think, Brian? Because let me just paint a scenario for, let's say, Hawaii. Market is hotter than ever. Prices are going up. As Ashley mentioned, we just got 4 of our houses under contract. The only reason they're 40,000 over what I initially pegged my ARV at. The only reason why one of them is 20,000 over is because we were pre-selling right before we went on market. So we didn't get to test exactly where it was going to come in. So, but overall, that's what we're seeing in our market but our market is notoriously low in inventory. We're always low in inventory. Everybody there's high demand, which causes prices to go up, right? And I think we're an international market because there's buyers coming from China, Australia, Canada, South Korea, Japan, everywhere. Everybody wants a piece of Hawaii. We're an island. We have limited land, and there's not much more that's going to be coming up, So interest rates are super low, right? Just like it is across the nation, and so buyers have strength, and it's a strong seller's market. But our number one economic driver for Hawaii is tourism. And that has been shut down for over half a year in 2020. And if you look at the fundamentals of what's going on, it's not good, right? There's a high unemployment. Small businesses are going under. Hospitality still isn't back to full force, even though they're opening up. So tourism is still, handicapped. So when it comes to the housing market, though, what would you say may or may not happen in a market similar to ours? Because Hawaii is probably not the only market that's going through something like this, where everything looks good. And should we be worried? Because if interest rates stay low till 2022, 2023, which is what they're kind of predicting, then perhaps the housing market may stay strong. But at some point, there's got to be a retraction, right? That's what I'm thinking. But I kind of want to hear your thoughts. Someone with fresh eyes, even though you do a lot of business out here in Hawaii, but someone, in your space and in the financial space, what would you say would be your prediction, if you had any, to a market like ours?
So I've lived in Southern California and Los Angeles for the last 10 years. Housing prices were going crazy there too. We've seen massive exodus from large metropolitan areas, right? New York, Boston, Los Angeles. Part of it is because everybody's so cramped and close together. And so I ended up moving. My office has been in Denver the entire time, and I commuted. So I moved to the mountains. I moved up to the Vail Valley. So, I live at 8,500 feet and ski every day. And there's nobody, right? There's 8,000 people in the town, right? So people are getting out of that, right? So people are, going to Hawaii to get away, right? So I think Hawaii stays as one of those places that has a little bit more elbow room, and we'll just leave Waikiki kind of out of that area and the high-rise condos and stuff. But but I think that you're seeing more and more people. I mean, Tennessee is booming, Texas. I mean, Toby doesn't have a pickup truck big enough to store the wads of cash that he's making because he's got so many deals coming in the door.
Well, Toby's about to have some more because we're set up with Toby now.
Yeah, go
Hey,
Toby.
We're gonna do a lot of business.
But
not
that's
have a
it.
truckload of cash because I gave it all to Brian so that he could buy his new house in Colorado, and he's yet to pay me back. So once he pays me back, then that truckload will be filled again, and it's not a pickup truck; it's a semi truck.
Well, the good thing about Texas, they got plenty of meat and beer, so I'm on my way.
And great barbecue.
Great barbecue. Yeah. So, it's happening everywhere. People are feeling the effects, the multifamily market, the commercial market, all of our hotel business is down dramatically. We've had people, commit to a loan and then, cancel the loan because the bank never closed it. So you're seeing all that all that stuff, but people are starting to dump money back into multifamily again, right? Just making it a little bigger and a little more elbow room. And so the market will stay good. Rates drive everything. So rates will be good to 2021. The 10-year did move back to 110 or 111. Still, it's a low rate. I mean, people are going to get 4% or 4 1/8, whatever. It's not 8, it's not 10.
Right.
So, it's good.
Yeah.
I think it stays strong.
I gotta admit, and I've admitted this, I've been wrong probably more than once going through this. I was thinking, I don't know how our market will survive just based off of, the tourism being shut down and businesses going, people losing jobs and stuff, getting furloughed and all the forbearances. But I didn't think that the Fed would drop rates just to stabilize and hold the housing market, not just hold it steady, but like it's just blasted off in certain markets. So, and when I think about it, Hawaii is also a huge hub for military, right? We're represented by every branch of the military here. So that's a big chunk of demand as well. VA loan products are very attractive too, right? So I'm happy to hear that from you because that's what I'm thinking. I hope I'm not wrong this time, that actually we might make it through okay.
Yeah, no, and again, I think you and the rest of the folks on the call and Toby's in that boat as well. You guys that have a fix and flip business that also move to a traditional Fannie Freddie broker shop can really help your borrowers do a fix and flip loan, and then you do the end loan as well. You can vertically integrate into the entire process. Corey, I'm assuming you're a realtor as well, right? You're finding deals, you're listing deals, you're doing the fix and flip, and when you get your traditional stuff, right, you can start doing end loans. That's how you make the full incorporation and really make the money, is controlling the process. Right. That's what you guys are really doing, is controlling the process.
Right. Yeah. It's a lot to manage, but that was the idea, and it's been working out. And I guess right now, if everybody wants to, feel free to unmute and ask Brian any questions. Because it doesn't have to just be in the construction space, because Brian has been in our realm for many years and has a lot of experience all across the board when it comes to what we do. Buying properties, selling properties, stabilizing properties. So now would be a great time to ask your questions. Drop it in the chat or unmute and ask.
Brian, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, Toby.
Isn't that the same shirt you had on yesterday in our MPLA call?
No, but the horns are the same ones. That was me. That was me at the Capitol building.
Right. Yeah.
I hope just in time.
That was you. I thought that was you.
me. People are like, he looked familiar.
It's like, there's Brian again, causing trouble. No. Yeah, and for everybody on the call, Toby Potter, he's also in the NPLA Wealth of Knowledge, and we're gonna be partnering with him and doing a bunch of deals. And he's got the money, so we're gonna let's make
Once
this.
Brian pays me back, I'll have it all. But right now, I'm a little thin.
Yeah, when I asked Brian about his opinion about Hawaii's market, I was just about to slip in the disclosure, like, hey, don't scare any, I don't want to scare Toby because we're about to do some deals out here in Hawaii. But then I remember, Toby's a Texan. He ain't scared of anything.
Man. Everybody always asks, hey, how's COVID in Texas? I'm like, what the hell's COVID? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. No, yeah. And having you guys on is awesome because I think before you hopped on, Toby, I was telling Brian how he's a voice of comfort to us, because we're in a new space. We have high capacity, and I feel we have a strong team to run right alongside you and hopefully do some big business. But at the same time, we're still in a new space, so we're still learning. And Brian has been like a mentor to us, and a connector for us too, introducing us to a lot of people, especially like you.
Well, be careful because Brian will lead you astray. He has introduced me to some people that when I see them in person, I'm going to put a bullet between their eyes. Because in Texas, we carry guns. I don't know if you guys know, where you're at in Hawaii, but in Texas, we carry guns, a lot of them. So be careful who Brian introduced you to. In fact, if he introduces you to somebody, call me and I'll tell you yes or no.
Okay, there you go. You're the risk management for Brian's recommendations.
I'm your quality control on that side of
That's exactly right.
Gotcha. Okay, then we'll definitely do that. Well, I don't know. Brian might be sending you all the weirdos because we're getting solids.
All the guys that have told him to go jump in the lake, he's like, hey, wait a minute. Before I do, let me introduce you to a buddy of mine.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Brian, thank you so much again for your time jumping on, and we gotta have Toby on too one day. Maybe we just bring anybody from NPLA that wants to come talk story with a bunch of investors who are probably at the other end of the financing that we do, right? So,
and I will tell you, I love Brian to death. He and I are good friends. We've known each other for several years. He is very intelligent. I know he doesn't look it in his plaid shirt. He's from California. I don't know why moving to Colorado he changed his whole wardrobe, but he is a very intelligent individual. He knows his shit, and I trust him with everything we've got. If Brian puts his name on it, I guarantee you it's valid. So I hate two things. I hate that I got on the call late. My calendar said 3 o'clock for some reason. I log on 3 minutes early and this thing's been going on for an hour. So I hate that. But I tell you, anything Brian has to bring to the table, it is truly golden nuggets. He is an expert in his field and he's an expert in our industry. And he's a great alliance to anything you want to do in this realm of real estate financing and so on and so forth.
Yeah. I echo that, to the T. So thank you, Brian, for everything, not just for your time today, but for all that you've done, for us, and really with nothing, in return, because we're searching for ways to return some value to you, and I know you're preparing too for possible, turn. And if we were talking about like kind of small banks, right, that you might be looking to earn business from, is that nationwide or?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
We don't discriminate against business. Somebody needs our help, we're giving it to them.
I love it. Yeah. Well, feel free to check the chat, Brian. I don't know if there's any questions on here, but usually, I think Tristan had a question.
Finance.
Yeah, let's open it up to the group, guys. You can unmute yourself, ask Brian any questions that you may have.
SCR is the only one out of the 5 that would service and seller finance alone in Hawaii.
Does FCI do fund control?
CFSI.
Yes. Well, they're a servicer. So servicers funds control are different than our fund control because they're not the lender, right? They're the servicer. They're those folks that I talked about that doesn't matter if the budget line items move around a bit, as long as it balances, they fund it. That's a lender problem ultimately, which would be your problem if your servicer is doing that type of stuff. And obviously you get an FCI or somebody big, right? You just turn around and sue them. Again, but Gerasi and Hornick and the rest of them, right? Get a whole bunch of legal bills. You guys got to fight to get it done. So
Right.
it's making sure that your servicer does things properly. It's not that they all do it improperly. It's just one of the things they don't know, right? They have clerks. It's like you guys having a processor determine if the project is good in Ohio and Florida and Hawaii and California. It's too different to make good business decisions and have a processor look at it to do. It's just more difficult. There's more risk.
Right.
And the whole thing is what's your risk tolerance? Some people, the SBA, we have to collect every red cent on every project for an SBA file. It takes us 19 days on average to fund an SBA draw. Look at Toby's face, right? He's yelling at me for 3 days.
Yeah.
Right? It's 19 days.
Turnaround time is absurd. And you guys know, if you've got a flipper out there that's, scraping out a living on this flip project, and he's maxed out all his credit cards to get materials and contractors paid. He turns in an inspection request, a draw request, and we say, we'll get that to you in the next 19 days. He's going to show up in my office mad as a badger because he's broke. I mean, we turn ours, we try to, in 4 days. They send in the request. 24 hours, the inspector goes out there. 24 hours, he gets back the report. We review it right then and there, and then 2 days, try to get them the money wired. If it's past that, they're blowing us up. Brian tells you 19 days.
SBA.
That's an ordinary damn appraisal.
SBA.
Brian, can you explain SBA for people that don't know?
So the Small Business Administration has a construction loan program. Better rates, but not wildly better, right? Maybe a couple hundred basis points, which is a lot, but the cost of doing business costs some amount of money, and getting it done fast and the opportunity cost and all the rest of it. But they do the full fund control. So your contractor has to be able to provide invoices and lien releases, all signed. Everything has to tie out. We literally manage it down to the penny. They have to prove an invoice for, I'm just going to say Home Depot. It's not, right? Your Home Depot has to show cabinets and countertops and faucets, and those have to tie out to what your budget is. And that's the amount we recommend. And like every contractor in the world, except for maybe the guy that does the World Trade Center, most of these guys are smaller. Toby mentioned it, right? Hand to mouth. He's trying to make payroll. I crumbled up my invoice and threw it away. I didn't save it. I put 2 projects on the same invoice, and then they're trying to, get more money out of you for the other project you put on the invoice. So accounting, like Corey, you mentioned in one of your earlier comments, accounting isn't a strong point for a lot of these guys, and accounting is a big deal for us and for the SBA. So having a good contractor, setting expectations, letting them know that they have to track and document, right? I don't care that you're making 30% or 50%. That's not for me to determine. You got a line item that says granite 10,000 and you send me the granite invoice and the pictures are in and it says 5,000. I'm just going to say 100% recommend 10 grand. I don't care that you made 5 grand on the granite countertops. That you guys approved the deal. So, that's the difference. As you get larger, and the projects get more complex, so do the bankers, and so do the requirements. Right? You want to put a little more emphasis on those heavy rehabs than you do kind of the lipstick on a pig.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's something I didn't know either, that the SBA is you're working, you get clients from on that side. So that's interesting. I want to look into more of that. But yeah, 90 days, that's a long time. It's mainly because they are very diligent. They want everything like
correct. They don't want any surprises. And if you guys don't, it's a wonderful, Bank of Hawaii or whatever your local banks are there. If you're not dealing with your local commercial banker for all their rejects, you're missing an opportunity, because they don't like a lot of it, right? Yeah. They don't like a lot of stuff, and they won't do it. Just, I don't want to do Chris's deal. It's on the hill. There's risk, and I don't like risk. Well, there's risk in everything. So that's where, it's a big opportunity. The SBA doesn't approve a lot. And it takes 4 months to get an approval out of the SBA, maybe 3.
Well, that's huge. I mean, I never thought of that, because there's probably like Bank of Hawaii and a bunch of other banks that are what John Hornick referred to as or maybe it was the auction guy, auction.com guy, when he was talking about the data. There's a lot of shadow inventory, right? Like forbearances, people who went into forbearance and I guess got caught up, got out of the program, and now are behind on their payments, but are not going back into the forbearance program. What does that tell us? I think there's only one answer for that, which means they kind of threw their hands up and they're like, you know what? I tried the forbearance thing. It didn't, it's not going to work. I give up. So they have data on that, and it's not a small number. So it's coming. And I bet these banks have that inventory on radar. So who would we talk to see if we can talk to? Is it asset managers? Is it like the bank presidents? Like,
yeah. But there's a fine line, right? Because the banks are not yet reporting and don't have to report, right? Nor do the consumers' credit bureaus reflect that you've been in a forbearance for 9 months, right? So at this point, it's shadow, right? It's dark web type of thing where your credit's not being impacted. It's showing everything's fine. The banks are reporting that they have them. They're not reporting who. And they don't know if people are going to come back around. So that's the hard part, is normally you begin to see the foreclosure filings pop up, but you're not seeing it. And I don't know that you're going to get any bank or servicer to give you the information for those people, because that's the honeypot right there. Mm-hmm. If you can find the people that haven't made a mortgage payment in 9 months, they're going to have to catch up when they come out of forbearance. I don't know about you, but you miss 9 months of mortgage payments. I don't know that you have that in your checking account to stroke a check to say, okay, thanks for letting me skip it. Now I have to come up with all that money. That's going to be.
There's a plus and a minus on that.
Huh?
There's a plus and a minus in that opportunity. The negative is, nobody, not Global or anybody else, is going to take somebody who's missed any payments in the last 12 months, especially if they're in forbearance. But the positive side is that if you get with the asset managers on your local banks like that, they want those deals off their books. They haven't made any money on them. Now they're going to have to spend a bunch of money in legal fees, foreclosures, evictions, all this crap. They can get their money out simpler, quicker, easier, then you become a lifeline for them. And I'm telling you, in 2008, 2009, 2010, when the market crashed, we were able to align ourselves with Chase Bank, JP Morgan, and go in and get all those deals that were going into foreclosure and buy those 30, 40, 50 cents on the dollar, those notes, those properties, and get them off their books and move that money out. And they were okay because they had a net that they needed, and there was no heartache, pain, financial wherewithal to go through that. So getting embedded with those asset managers is a positive. The key is timing. Can I get in there? And so then it may be, if you have somebody who is 9 months behind, they can't get caught up. Well, then the win is you have somebody on this call or partner says, okay, then we're going to go buy that note from that bank. And then we're going to do a workout, either evict, remove, and sell, or do a workout, clean up the negative, make sure that it's a new note, all payments are made, and then sell that off at a profit. So there's a lot of opportunities there if you can orchestrate all the moving variables and make it a win-win.
I love that. And that one, even if it's just that one deal that they're behind 9 months, you take that to the asset manager and you perform on that one deal, then it opens up the conversation. Is like, what else do you have? You know, let's do this. Let's roll this out. Let's help, you know, let us help you.
Yeah, they start calling and say, hey, we've got a tape here of 10 properties that we're getting ready to execute on. We're going to give you first right of refusal. Before we go into the courts and fines, all that, what do you want? What can you take off so that we can clean this up? Then you cherry pick what you want, take those off, and they move forward. Now you become a true outlet for them. And it is a win-win across the board.
Right. That's a great tip. And maybe one final question, and I'll throw this out there to you, Brian and Toby, because we're all part of the NPLA. But recently, the NPLA had a huge win, which we were talking about yesterday. Was that yesterday? Yeah, yesterday, on the call yesterday. Since majority of everyone on the call are investors who were the consumers of these loan products, and the NPLA does what they're doing is they're really kind of fighting on behalf of our clients, right? All of our friends here, and I'm a borrower as well, to kind of protect our space. So recently there is a big victory. Can one of you guys explain maybe what happened? Because this is dealings that we don't hear about as borrowers, right? All we're worried about, let's find deals, let's buy properties, fix them up, sell them for profit, provide value in that sense in the marketplace. But we don't know sometimes on the higher levels of all like the politics that's going around in these legislation and these bills that are kind of getting snuck through or passed through without a group like the NPLA kind of keeping eyes on everything to make sure that decisions are being made that may affect our space with overregulation or different legislation that could significantly hurt, what we do. Brian, do you want to explain it briefly of what happened?
Yeah, I'll give you my 2 cents, and Toby's probably a little closer to it since he's actually an originator. Your point about NPLA and overregulation. So and Toby will tell you, just as you're about to get into this, Corey, and Toby, I'll let you explain the difference, but the traditional mortgage side of the business, Toby's conventional and FHA book of business, his disclosure requirements to the consumer, and his compliance regulatory brain damage that he has to deal with, I'm going to say is 10x what it is in the private space. Now, the reason people are trying to lump the private space into more of that is because, people set up an LLC and then they're buying things and then they move into it. And it's really, they bought an owner occupied property. So there's some squishiness that may go around in some of the private money space. There are people that do the things that you don't want them doing, right? The bad actors in the space that collect upfront fees and say you're going to do something and get to the closing table and the rate, whatever Alex quoted, 4.625 is really 9.625, and you're all the way at the end of the deal. And right. So there's some of that went on quite a bit, right? Is the nefarious characters screw it for all the rest of us. And that's just what happens in every market that's good. So NPLA, California passed the law. New York had a law, and I don't know all the details, but in particular California, when a foreclosure is complete now, it's really not complete. You have to wait another, I want to say it's 60 days, and the buyer can come back and buy the house from you for what somebody bought it at auction for, which is just completely stupid, and I can't believe it, whatever. But some of these things sneak in to that. And so New York had a similar type of language put in, which included private lenders or commercial mortgages, which they were calling consumer mortgages, which isn't the case. John Hornick is an attorney that represents, this space in particular, very big on the East Coast. He went in, they successfully made their pitch, if you will, and got that reversed at the last minute and pulled out. Toby, I don't know if you can add some color, since you're actually lending, and what impact it would have to you as a lender.
Well, yeah, and you're right on, point to the fact that in the Fannie Freddie, after the 2008 crash of the private or the agency lending, the two senators, Dodd and Frank, went and, built this bill that we deal with today called TRID. And they overdid it. They really and their concern was that the reason why the market crashed in 2008 was because the lenders, the banks, were loaning money to anybody that could fog a mirror. We were lending them on a no doc, 580 FICO, 100% financing, stated income, which is true. And at that time we had a company called Imperial Mortgage Corporation, and literally we wrote those loans. I mean, if you had a 580 FICO and we stated your income, we got you an 80-20 loan, but it was on an arm and it was at a 4.5%, 5% 1-year arm. The concept, the mindset was that in the next 12 months, the economy is good. You're going to get a raise. You're going to get a better job. Your loan is going to then, and you also had a 3-year prepay. So you're going to get an adjustment on that, but you're going to be able to offset that adjustment with cost of living increases in your pay, blah, blah, blah. Lo and behold, the market crashed because all these notes came due. People couldn't make the payments. So Dodd and Frank said, we've got to put a stop to this. And they created the TRID disclosures, because everybody that went into foreclosure said, we didn't know. Hell, I didn't know. If I'd have known, we wouldn't have done this deal. Bullshit. You're grown ass adults, you're buying a house, read the language. But so to stop that, this law, TRID law, came out and said, we want to disclose this 5 times. We want to disclose this 5 times. And so that no matter what, you were over disclosed. Full circle to today, hard money has become the fastest growing institutional organization in real estate financing because, number one, there's no regulations. And so we as private lenders have the ability and the right to loan our money however we want. As this continues to grow, Wall Street gets involved, then there's kind of this crossover. California said, hey, we feel like that our people are being taken advantage of. And so we want to implement these regulatory laws of disclosures. And if you foreclose, we want to give that client, that homeowner, the right to buy their property back, just like on a sheriff's sale. If you are a tax sale, sheriff's sale, if you buy a house at auction on a sheriff's sale, that person has the right to come back and buy those, pay the taxes plus 1.5% to you and get their property back. 9 out of 10 times they didn't have the money to pay the taxes, much less 1.5 times what you paid. But California implemented that, New York tried, and they had a lot more language in it for the disclosures and the handcuffing of private lenders. And MPLA, which is an amazing organization, I attribute a lot of my success from Pitbull and MPLA, the brotherhood, as I said yesterday, the brotherhood, the camaraderie that pulled us all through the pandemic together. And what it did was allow us to feel like we're not alone in this, that we have the Brian Minghams, we have the John Hornicks, we have the Alex and Corys, we have everybody nationwide going through this together. And when you're together, you're stronger. But in that, they were able to lobby against this and point out that we are private lenders. We have the right, the ability to loan our money how we decide. And we are doing things right by the consumers and giving them every benefit of the doubt. Showed case studies of what we do and how we do it on a foreclosure and overturn and throw that bill out. long story short.
Yeah. And thank you guys for explaining that. It does affect the obviously the lending space a lot more than the investors who are at the other end of these loans, but it still affects it, right? Because like whatever happens to your lender, and like if there's strict regulations on them, it's gonna affect your business at some point if these laws start getting passed in every state. And I think it was an important win because for one, it was last minute. They caught it, that they removed some verbiage from the bill that we needed as private lenders, and they jumped in and actually got it done. I think they even dealt with Governor Cuomo in New York, and that was crazy. And
it's the same thing, right? I mean, we just had a $900 billion stimulus bill, and it was 5,255 pages.
Yeah.
Right.
People don't read what's being passed. They stick it in some other randomly named bill, and you figure out that it had a housing piece in it. So,
and 10% of that money is going to the United States. The other 90% is going international. So, it was passed because everybody saw, hey, we're getting another $600. Really? Well, where's the other $899 billion going? The other thing that there was a lot of noise last year that Florida was trying to pass these laws, and that got shut down. This is part of the strength and the reasoning behind the MPLA. And yes, I am a huge supporter of the MPLA as a founding member along with Brian. I see that there's value with that. I see that there is strength in it. And I believe as it continues to grow, because right now there's really not that strong of a association that is directly driven by us. I'm talking about Corey's and Alex's and Brian's and Toby's and Gene's and all of us. That's what the MPLA is. It's driven by the founding members and the individuals, so that because if a state puts into a regulation of how I can lend my money, then I got to pass that on down to you guys on how I underwrite that file. And
Right.
That's where it starts becoming hard for you to do business and impossible for me to loan my money. Just because my money's sitting in Brian's vault at his house in Colorado, I'm not making any money, any interest on that money. It's just sitting there, and he's just get to take selfies with it. And then so I got to lend that money out. The only way that money makes me any money is by lending it out. And if I'm restricted on that, then I'm not being able to capitalize.
Right. And I think it was a huge first, I think it's like the first big victory for the NPLA. It just shows the power. Not only did they move fast, they got it done. They got in front of Governor Cuomo, who's been on the news daily nationally.
He's an idiot.
Yeah. So he definitely made the right call on this one for us. And the reason is they're trying to classify like us on this call as responsible business owners, as like a grandma who's getting her a loan, a mortgage. It's like, no, this isn't the case. Like we're all, responsible business owners.
That's apples and oranges. They're both fruits, but that's an apple and an orange.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So we need the NPLA, and there has a lot of smart people and a lot of resources to help all of us. So I just wanted to put it out there in front of our group, because a lot of this doesn't get mentioned. This is all like backroom kind dealings, but people should know that we need to be aware of what's like the people who are making decisions for us, like what are they really taking into consideration the effects of some of these decisions being made? And New York is like a pass-through state, right? If something passes there, other states are just waiting to do the same.
Yep. And John Warnock will tell you straight up, the only reason why a bill is being presented to be put into law is because a politician is trying to gain votes. Somebody who created that bill, who is trying to push that into legislation, is looking for votes. Yep. And that's where it's wrong. And we hoped that the government would stop looking at their own pocketbook and start looking at the economy and the people and society as a whole, and start looking at, okay, how can I take this organization and enhance it to do more good for the people, instead of looking at what is this majority over here, this activists, what are they wanting, and can they get me more votes than this group over here? And if they can, then I'm going to support their request. But if they can't, then I'm going to support this. It's all about the votes, and that's what drives us crazy.
Right. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much for jumping on and for your time. And thank you, Brian, for sharing your story and your services and your experiences and your insight, so that all of us here can be better aware. And there's a couple of great nuggets in there, especially with I didn't know you guys kind of helped connect general contractors, or at least screen them, right, and do feasibility for projects. So if anybody wants to reach out, Brian, what's the best way to contact you?
I would say to get the best, quickest services, go to our general mailbox, which is info@thinkcfsi, Charlie Frank Sam India.com. It'll get to our sales team, and one of our relationship managers or salespeople will get right back.
Perfect. Gotcha.
Quick, easy.
Well, thanks, Brian, again. And Toby, it was so great to see you jump on, and thanks for your insight as well. We look forward to doing lots of deals with you. I'm actually really excited, and everyone on this call should be very excited because Toby's a powerhouse. And congratulations, he won Originator of the Year, right? That was awesome.
Private Lender of the Year.
Oh, Private Lender of the Year.
Yeah,
dang. Okay. Okay.
Just kidding, man. But yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
I had Service Provider of the Year. Do I get any kudos for that, Toby?
That's right. Yeah, Brian did get.
Vote for me.
Well, dude, you weren't in Austin, man. So
you didn't even show up. So
I didn't even show up for the award.
Yeah.
You didn't show up for your award, so no, it doesn't count. What's up, Alex?
It's like the Grammys. You just don't show up. You big league them, and they want you more.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much, and thank everybody for jumping on this Friday. Usually we hang out for a little while, but we got another meeting coming in, so we'll let everybody get going on their way, and have a great weekend, and we'll see you in the Facebook group, and reach out to Brian if you need, and we'll see you next week.
Sounds good, guys.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate your hospitality.
Thank you, guys.
See ya.
Mahalo.
Mahalo.
Come on, Heido, bro.
Hey, will Coffee Talk be at 12 next week?
Same time. Yep, next week.
12 o'clock, okay.
Thanks for jumping on, Craig.
We'll work on the flyer.
Good to see you, Corey.
Good to see you. Thanks, guys.